to the Empower Series Online. My name is Clifton Johnson. I'm the founder of the Empower Series Incorporated, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization brought to you by the generous donations of Comerica Bank, AE Media Group, and you, our viewers in the United States and around the world. So thank you. If you want to find out more about the Empower Series, definitely check us out on social media. You're on YouTube right now, so don't leave without liking us, sharing us, adding comments, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. But when you do subscribe, hit the little button so that you're notified when we upload videos. You can also check us out on our website. Our website is www.empowerseries.com. There you can find out more about how we deliver hope, inspiration, education, and really connecting you to the critical resources to help you achieve your goal, whether they're financial goals, whether they're personal goals or professional goals. If you want to make a donation, you can always click on the donate button in the top left-hand corner and make a donation. But you can also make a donation by clicking or by texting give or donate to 214-225-6337. You're seeing that on the screen right now. You can text give or donate to 214-225-6337. If you choose to make a donation, we greatly appreciate that. So thank you. Our topic today is going to be on life insurance. In fact, September is National Life Insurance Month. That's where we want to stress the importance of understanding insurance, getting insurance, and really protecting your family. We have a guest today that is a professional in that area. His name is Aaron Leak. He's a wealth manager and the founder of ECL Private Wealth Management. He has over 16 years experience in financial services and holds a Series 7, 6, 63, and 66, as well as a life, health, and property and casualty insurance licenses. Aaron specializes in helping his clients reach their individual financial goals through an honest, customized financial planning process. His ultimate mission is to truly help and support his clients in any way possible. Without any further ado, let me welcome my brother, Aaron. Welcome to the Empower Series.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Long time coming.
That's what you do. You took the words out of my mouth. We've been talking about this, now it's finally happening. So, first off, I want to appreciate you taking your time and spending your critical resource to pour into the Empower Series community and share your knowledge to really help us all.
Absolutely.
When it comes to protecting our families, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, man. We've been trying to do it for a long time, and I love the work you're doing, and I really want to help any way I can.
Okay, well, cool, man. We're gonna have that opportunity. So we're gonna talk about life insurance, and people don't like talking about life insurance that much, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's important for us to throw out some statistics. So I'm gonna share some statistics, and also with the pandemic now, I guess it's been on our mind because we really have to prepare for the inevitable.
Sure.
But when it's going to happen, at some point we are all not going to wake up.
Absolutely.
And that's happening more so than anything else. But some of the statistics though shows that 31% of Americans say they are more likely to buy life insurance now because of COVID.
Sure.
Which is interesting. But that's even higher across many demographics, such as millennials is 44%, African Americans is 38%, Hispanics is 37%. So, but overall, 41% of Americans say that they don't have sufficient life insurance coverage, which is crazy, man. And with this, with that increasing critical need for life insurance, people find that 4 out of 10 families say that they will face some kind of financial hardship within 6 months if their primary wage earner dies. And 1 in 5 will experience it in just 1 month, which is crazy. Also, at least 106 million Americans living with life insurance right now have a gap.
Yeah.
So there's a shortfall. And although 56% of African Americans have life insurance, according to a recent study, 52% compared to 52% of all Americans. But also, although 56% of African Americans have life insurance, 46% remain underinsured. So it's just crazy.
Can you repeat that last one for me?
So look, we may have life insurance, but 46% remain underinsured. And it's crazy. We're going to talk a little bit about the history and why that's the case.
Sure.
But really, when you look at this month, the goal and what the Empower Series wants to do in this program is really raise the awareness, and we're partnering with a number of different organizations to really help protect our families. That's a campaign.
Sure.
And it's to address this coverage gap
Yeah.
in the U.S. And this is the second year. And what different organizations are doing, though, each month, they want to definitely target certain segments of the community, such as African Americans, women, Asian Americans, millennials, and low to moderate income individuals. So that's crazy, right? Because it's not just those segments, but everybody's underinsured.
Sure.
Why do you think that is?
I think, as we were talking about before, I think there's a lot of myths, misconceptions, and just a lot of, we're in an information age.
Right.
But within that information, there's a lot of false information out there, or a lot of just disinformation, I guess I would say, or misinformation that people are getting. And I think people also don't realize the statistics that you just mentioned. People don't realize they're underinsured. People don't realize the need for insurance, the need for more insurance. The other aspect, you can't be overinsured as well, but I think, as you just pointed out, the statistics are most people are underinsured. And to give you an example, I talked with a client the other day, and I was asking her about some of her needs. And, we're going through everything. You just mentioned all my licenses and the things that we do. We're looking at a full financial picture of how we can help in any way. And that may or may not always be life insurance with the needs being there. But with this specific individual, I was talking to her about, what she had in place. And a lot of people just think, life insurance, just death. Life insurance is just, I'll think about it, it's a back burner type of thing. But with her, I was talking about, hey, you just got this big old house, you just bought a nice house. She's making decent money now, kind of growing up and doing her thing, doing well, getting her investments in order. I said, what about your house? What are you gonna do if something happens to you? Your daughter's gonna have to pick up your mortgage payment now? How's she gonna do that? So I don't think a lot of people think, to answer your question, I don't think a lot of people think about the specifics of what they have and how they can piece life insurance to protect their family from certain things that they already have in place that they're comfortable with paying right now, but your family members may not be, because they may not be in the same boat as you. So I think that's, those are a couple instances I could think of. I think the myths, I think people not understanding what their needs may be, people not understanding, the impact of their demise, or it's kind of a morbid thing to think about, morbid thing to talk about, but it's something that we really try to reiterate with our clients. And you've been in the industry a long time, I know you talk about it a lot, especially in our community. I think it's something that's huge that we definitely need to tackle and make sure people understand where they're at and how it can help.
So what I want to do today then, we're going to talk about some basic things. So right now on the screen is the list of the kind of questions that we're going to answer, which are some basic questions to understand what life insurance is. Why do you even need life insurance? How much do you need? How do you even calculate that? How much does it cost? What are the different types? Where do you even get life insurance? Who do you talk to? What professionals? But then we want to talk a little bit, like you said, about there's multiple uses for life insurance. One is if you have people who are dependent upon you, and your loss of earnings is going to create a financial hardship. But then the other part of it is really building wealth while you're alive, as well as transferring wealth to your beneficiaries, generational wealth. Right. So we definitely want to reach all of those. But before we get started with that, we got to do our disclaimer, bro. Right. So here's the disclaimer. That's on the screen as well. So the information we're going to present is strictly for informational purposes only. It is not intended to make an offer or a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any life insurance product, specific securities, investments, or investment or life insurance strategies too as well, right? This information that's going to express does not consider your specific situation or your objectives, and is not intended as a recommendation appropriate for any individual. So listeners and viewers are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified insurance, tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented here may be suitable for your specific situation. Got that in? Can
I add to that?
Go ahead. Add some more.
I just want to explain everything he just said. It basically means we're in the information age, right? So you can find out a lot of this information in different places. And then you also we're in a review age, right? Everything's got a review on it. I want to see what the reviews are on this. So you may look up some of the stuff we talk about today, and there may be good or bad reviews about it, because as Cliff just said, everything that we are talking about, it should be tailored specific to you and your specific needs or your family's specific needs. It does not mean that everything is a blanket, a blanket product or a blanket solution is for everybody.
Like,
so
not a cookie cutter solution,
it's not. It's really not. So be careful even when you're looking at reviews of certain, the topics or things that we're talking about, because I think that is, as we're talking about, getting rid of some of the myths. That's going to be one of the biggest ones to me, because if I Google certain topics that we talk about today, you're going to find a bunch of reviews, and someone's not going to like it because it didn't fit their specific situation. But that doesn't mean it's a bad solution.
And then also, we can't go into a lot of detail here. So there are going to be some links in the description underneath the video that will give you more information, as well as how to get in touch with Aaron if you want to get in touch with him and ask him some more specific questions that are tailored for you. So the first question, just let's knock it out, man. So what is life insurance, and how do you explain that to somebody coming in, whether they know what it is or not?
You know what, in my office, we really take out the word specific life insurance. Why? Not to hide it or be mischievous anyway, but we really are trying to help you understand any needs that you may have that you may not know. So when I'm explaining what life insurance is, I'm really talking about legacy transfer. I'm usually talking about trying to help you uncover needs that you may have. What do you think your family or loved ones or whoever you may be leaving it to? Sometimes it's even a charity. That's going deep into some different solutions, but it's not always just what's my family member going to do, but how can I leave my legacy when I'm no longer on this planet, which we all got a date that's stamped that we don't know.
Expiration date, right?
And it's a morbid thing to talk about. So we've tried to come up with creative ways to really talk about the needs of life insurance more than just, hey, here's what life insurance is, and you got to have it. Because I think that is a big myth within it as well. And I think it's hard to really understand I have a need of something when I'm not even going to be here. So that aspect of it can be a little, it just has a lot to it. So it can be a very cumbersome conversation. It can be a very morbid conversation. So we really try to be creative with that. So to answer your question, I think life insurance is something that can help with your financial goals of what you want to be done as a legacy transfer in any manner.
Okay. And then so how that is communicated in the conversation goes in flow, right? But for definition purposes, you got a definition on the screen right now. Life insurance is literally a contract between you and an insurance company.
Absolutely.
That basically says, as long as you're giving them payments and premium, when you don't wake up, your beneficiaries is going to get a check.
Absolutely.
And it's tax-free, federally tax-free, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what life insurance technically is. Right. But then, like you mentioned, the need for life insurance is something that is very subjective. Right. And what I tell people is, like, nobody can tell you what your need is.
Right.
You can ask questions, like, is someone dependent upon your income? What would happen if you don't wake up and you can't, you pass away and your income is gone? How is that impacting the people who are dependent upon you?
Right.
How would you like to protect your family or your children? Do you want to pay for their college? So how do you really address helping people understand whether they even need life insurance or not?
One of the things we do is a needs analysis, and not to throw out it's kind of a industry jargon or word type of thing. Everyone says, what's a needs analysis? Needs analysis is basically what it says. It basically goes through of looking at what your current situation is, where you are income, expenses wise, assets wise. It looks at a lot of that, and it basically will help us determine what a need may be for a specific individual or family. So that's one. And then also, like you just mentioned, through a conversation of talking to my clients and getting to know them, we are very much a relationship type of organization when we're trying to go through this. So I'm trying to get to know you a little bit more instead of pushing a product. Does that make sense?
Right.
I don't ever like to push a solution on someone without knowing there's a need there. Mm-hmm. And I think as we're talking about Life Insurance Awareness Month, I do a lot of training of even other advisors. So I help clients, but I also train other advisors with a lot of this stuff at times as well. And I'm usually talking to them about making sure you have a relationship or know information from that client to be able to give them a solution. Otherwise, you are pushing a product.
Right.
And I think that is also, as earlier conversation of that's one of the problems when it comes to people understanding what life insurance is and how it can help them. I think sometimes people feel like it's being pushed on them without having someone really dive in as to going through what their needs may specifically be. So to answer your question, how do we do that? Again, it's through a conversation. It's really simple. Hey, just like you said, hey, what do you got going on? What are your needs? What's going to happen if you're no longer here? And even within that, I mean, what do you want your kids to do? What do you want your wife to do? But there's some situations, the reason why I hate giving those specific examples, I'm trying to give some examples, but I've got clients that have life insurance that aren't married, don't have kids, don't have any specific loved ones they want to leave it to, but there's certain situations of going through their needs and looking at their situation where it still is a good solution for what they're trying to accomplish. So
that's a good comment, because I was talking to my son. My son's 22, and my daughter is older than that, right? But they have life insurance, and they don't have kids. But I know at some point in the future, they may have a family. They may have people dependent upon them. And we'll talk about what life insurance costs. But as you know, that it's really important to get it when you're young.
Yeah, sure.
Because when you're looking at it when you're older, it's going to cost more.
Absolutely.
But going back to identifying needs, you might find that a person doesn't care what happens when they pass away. It's like, she'll figure it out.
Yeah,
He'll figure it out, right? They're young.
Those are the
We've got some people like that, right?
Yeah, funny
or you look at someone who, when they're 18 or 22, they don't look at the fact that if they don't wake up, their loved ones are going to incur a cost to take care of that.
Sure.
And maybe time off work.
Right.
And so having those conversations, probably for the first time with some people who just don't think about that.
Yeah.
And the question might be, well, not now.
Right.
But continuing to ask those questions to see what the needs are, what is like, their income, and how much is available, will determine, okay, do you have a need, and what is that need, and where does it fit with your other priorities and goals?
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's huge, because it could be, everyone's like, oh yeah, if, there's some people who are like, I don't care what happens to my kids, they'll be fine. And I get it. But what about, and that's where sitting down with a good professional, just to your point, when they're really bringing up like specifics to you, okay, so that your kids might be okay, right? But what about your specific ideas or your specific will or your specific trust or your specific concerns about what happens to your physical body if you're no longer here? Those things have costs. And I know you personally have been in that situation. I've personally been in that situation where I've had to write a check.
And many other people have been in that situation.
Absolutely.
Where there's no money and people have to ask for money.
We got to do catfish dinners.
Right,
we did that before. We know, especially, we know. So my point is, like, it ain't always just about, hey, I want, my family to get a couple $1 million or a couple $100,000, whatever it is. I caution my clients to have that concern to say, I'm not really concerned about them, but what about you? What about is there a specific, casket, or is there a specific burial site you would like to be, even some of that stuff. Again, these conversations can be very morbid, but I feel like they're so important. And when I ask you to repeat your statistic, I feel like not that they're more important for any other community, but I can only talk about my community and where I came from. And I have clients of every ethnicity and every background and every income level and all that. So, you know those disclaimers, you know who I work with. But when I'm talking specifically about our community, when you gave me those stats, I cringe, because I'm like, our communities could completely change if we started to get some of this information, and it could just look a lot different.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, man, since we're talking about it, I was going to kind of wait until the end.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of reasons why people may want to consider life insurance. Number one is if you have people dependent upon you,
Sure.
and it will create some kind of financial hardship if you're not around anymore.
Right.
That's number one. But then, even if you have assets, there are other reasons to get life insurance if you want to efficiently transfer your wealth and mitigate the taxation of that.
Sure.
If you want to grow wealth and have some options during retirement to either, if you don't need the life insurance, but you've got the ability to pull out some tax-free income. We'll talk about those strategies later.
Sure.
But it's not always a morbid reason to get life insurance.
Exactly.
It could be a reason for creating generational wealth.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about that when we get into the different types of life insurance.
Sure.
But one of the things is that one of the reasons why there's a gap and there's a lack of, I would say, trust when you look at financial professionals in our community, you look at the Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we were sold life insurance strictly for burial purposes.
Yep.
And not for anything else, not to provide income or replace our income for our spouse or our kids. And also for those minimum benefits, we were charged like 2 to 3 to sometimes 4 times the amount that a white family was charged.
Sure.
And so and then we would think that we're getting a larger amount, but then we found out that we're not getting that much.
Sure.
So there's a lot of history and reasons why there's a distrust in our
Sure.
community when it comes to financial professionals, but specifically life insurance.
Yeah.
And I think that bleeds into why there's a gap.
Yeah.
Just us not,
Well, it's time to let it go.
Yeah, we're going to crush that myth,
It's
right?
it's time to let it go because they're literally, as I told you before, I was thinking about this and I'm like, you just told me 4 out of 10 individual families have life insurance, right? But what if we could get 9 out of 10 of your neighbors or 10 out of 10 of your neighbors just in your specific neighborhood that really got these concepts down for a couple cups of coffee? I mean, we'll talk about the cost of insurance, of some of these solutions for people.
Right.
I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money for everybody for every single solution when it comes to life insurance. And we're talking about, grandma died, mom died. It's already, or dad or whoever it may be, it's already a sad situation. But it makes it a little bit less of a sting. You know what I mean? It makes it a little bit less of a sting when you know I don't have to write a big check. I'm getting a big check. And I think when we really get that mindset down, and now 10 households just got this kind of wealth, what can we do with that? Now we're really talking.
So how do we get there, right? Because a lot of times this is personal stuff,
Sure.
right? And so to think about it from a larger community perspective, you start with your family having that discussion. Then you may start with your blood family,
Yeah.
right? Your cousins, your
Yeah.
uncles, your aunts, your siblings. And then you might even start with your friend, what's a combination of friends and family, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever that word
friends
is.
me, yeah.
Right. So you start getting a group of people together and maybe even your neighbors
Sure.
to have this discussion about life insurance in and of itself. There's a couple of things I want to address when it comes to how much life insurance and what life insurance covers. One of the things is that there might be some people who are thinking, hey, let me get some life insurance on some people because I want to benefit when they are not here. Well, a couple of things. Life insurance does not pay out if you commit, unfortunately, a self-inflicted suicide, right, within the first 2 years.
Yep, okay.
Right?
Yep.
Also, there are some underwriting processes in place to
Sure.
where if you're sick or you're lying on your application, then a claim may not be paid out.
Sure.
Right, so and these things are all on the screen here. I won't go through all of them, but I want to make sure that as we talk about how much is needed, there are different ways of calculating it. I know there's a rule of thumb of 10 times your salary, or you can get into a specific goal-oriented, like what are your debts?
Yeah.
What's your mortgage? Do you want to pay for your kids' education? How do you step people through? Let's say they agree that there's a need. So how do you step people through identifying how much is needed?
I do a little bit of both. I like talking obviously about your income and expenses, and I'm a goal-based driven investor, period. I think to me, when I'm talking about financial pictures, period, I think attaching it with goals just makes sense to me, right? So even if we're talking about, I know this isn't topic, but to make it make sense, if I'm investing in the stock market or investing in an investment, and I have a goal in mind with that specific investment, it helps me stay focused a little bit longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Instead of me just investing to make money, because then the market's up and down, I'm gonna get flustered when it's down. And I'm gonna get too excited when it's up, and I can't stay with that consistency. And I think the thing that most investors, and I think when you're talking about life insurance, it's an investment. Yeah. It's not a payment. I'm not making a pay. You're making an investment into yourself and into your family, into your environment, into your community. It's not just a payment to something. You're investing. You're putting money away to invest your legacy, your transfer of wealth. And there's even other opportunities we talked about before of life benefits while you're living within life insurance as well. But my point is, I like to attach it with a goal because I think that makes more sense to me as a professional giving you advice. And I think it resonates more with you. When I think about my daughter and if something happens to me, my daughter's gonna be taken care of. I know she can go to college. I know my home is paid off. I know my business loans are taken care of. I know this situation's okay. I know my health bills could be, that resonates with people so much more than just saying, oh, you need life insurance. Oh, you need $500,000, or you need $1 million, or you need, whatever it may be. I think that's why I go through it that way. Does that make sense? And looking at more of a little bit of all. That's why I say get to know your clients when I'm doing that, and being able to, I mean, we're talking about, husband, wife, and kids. I've got people that put life insurance policies on pets because they want to make sure their pet is taken care of. I've had people put life insurance on I've had people get a life insurance policy and have a big donation be to a charity or to their favorite church,
I've seen that,
because they want their church to thrive, and they want to help, in our community, they want to help, with the doorknob fund or whatever it may be, within your community. Again, when I'm thinking about this and life insurance awareness, and then when you gave me some of those statistics and I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about a community of people. How can I impact the community? So a lot of people don't think about, even, I'm giving some nuggets out there, but they don't think about their church. You can put your church as a beneficiary of a life insurance policy all day. Right. And they get a charitable tax-free donation to that church to help give back to the community. So there's a lot of things that you can do within it. And so a lot of people, I think the lack of information is the lack of knowing of a need. If you explain, if we're talking and you're like, man, I think you may have a need here, and here's why, here's some things you can do. I'm like, Cliff, I didn't even think about that.
So, dude, that gets back to one of the values of sitting down with a financial professional, whether it's a professional like you who do more holistic planning,
Sure,
or maybe just an insurance agent,
Sure,
or whoever you sit down with, is being asked questions and putting some structured thought to your goals.
Absolutely.
That you would probably not think of.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And so we're going to talk about the different types of life insurance and
Sure,
how much it costs, which is probably what people are thinking right now. But I like to really get very clear on, what is your need? And like you said, if you have a need, then how do you, what's the amount that will help you accomplish your goal?
Yeah.
And get clear on that instead of jumping to, well, how much does it cost? I ain't got
Right.
that much.
Right.
Like, yeah, we'll figure that strategy out later. But
how much it costs? You need this much, and then boom. You know what I mean?
But one of the reasons why I feel that there's a gap between the need, the amount of life insurance, is because people jump to how much can I afford?
Sure.
And they probably can't afford all that they wish, but let's identify what it is you really wish for. And even though the strategy might be to accomplish that over time. Sure. But you got to look at what is the need first before you get into the different types.
Absolutely.
So what's on the screen now are the different methodologies for identifying the goal-oriented method of identifying the need. And what I found, though, is that if you take your annual salary and you multiply it by 10, it usually matches pretty close to
Sure,
whatever your needs are.
Absolutely.
Which are getting out of debt, if you have a mortgage, paying for your kids' education,
Yep,
replacing your income for some amount of time. It might not be until your spouse retires, but it might be for 5 or 10 years.
Sure.
To give them time to kind of raise the kids, get them out of the house, and then get into a new career possibly. Right.
And again, like with you've been through this, I've been through this personally. I think again, like just that situation you just explained, having to go through mourning and death and sorrow and feeling all those emotions, and we talk a lot right now. Big topic right now is mental health. And I do believe in mental health. I do believe it's an issue. I do believe in depression. I do believe in anxiety. And I think death can definitely, really trigger a lot of those emotions. And I've been there with some of it myself. What can help? Money at the end of the day helps. It makes the world go round, right? It makes, if I'm having to deal with the loss of life of a close friend, family member, or whatever it may be, and I also have to deal with all of your debts, all of your stuff, all of your, the stuff that goes with, burying someone and all of the emotions tied to that. But if I'm as an individual and I'm talking about my life and I say, hey, for this, I'll make sure my daughter doesn't have to deal with this, and this. Right. And she can focus on, I just lost my dad. That's huge. That's huge to me. So I think what you're saying there, of breaking that down in a needs analysis or in a conversation with a client about their needs, is huge, because I think that's what resonates and where you can really see, is this everything has a cost, right? Everything has, it's not necessarily, we always talk about, is it a fee or is it a payment? It's a cost to you of really investing into your future, and that's kind of how we look at it.
Yeah, and again, you guys are probably wanting to jump into different types and the cost yet, but before we even go there, we had a conversation about having these conversations are important, and one of the differences between what we find between the high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth individuals and people who are not there, who are on they're on the ladder to getting there.
Sure.
Is not having these conversations.
Absolutely.
But we were just talking about the knowledge is, the lack of knowledge is the same.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference that having these conversations or not having these conversations to build your knowledge base,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've got tons of stories of my ultra high net worth clients. They started out usually just like everybody else, right? They started out either poor or middle class somewhere, median income, and they either started their own business or they were an executive or they started on a career path to be a doctor or lawyer or whatever it is that they decided to do in their life and their career path. They got there that way. And there's some people who were lucky their whole life and are well fortunate, and there's nothing against that as well. But the difference between, if you want to say, the ultra high net worth and the low or middle class, it's nothing.
When it comes to knowledge about this stuff, right?
It's all the same information. It's just a matter of who sought it out and who didn't.
Right.
And I'm not saying the income piece. Like there's always gonna be different income levels, I believe. But at different income levels, there's still a lot you can do, and it's usually the same types of information. It's just a matter of listening to a podcast like this, or listening, seeking out information as to what can I do in my individual space. This is where I'm at right now. This is where I want to be. How can I get there, and who can help me? And I think that's the point of seeking out a professional on whatever level you're at, and seeking out a professional. The point that I think you're making too is my ultra high net worth clients still come to me. So if they knew everything, they wouldn't need a me, right? They wouldn't need a you. They wouldn't need it. They wouldn't need to look at stuff like that. They already know it. They already got it. They got it figured out. That's not the case.
No, they're not doing it by themselves.
That's not the case. They sought out a professional because they're busy doing whatever it is that got them to where they're at. They're busy doing that, or they're in retirement. They're busy enjoying their retirement or doing retirement. Most of my retirees are busier than what they were when they were working because they're doing something else. So they still seek out a professional. So my advice to that is seek out a professional in any capacity you're at to get information. I think I always try to give my clients, no matter where they're at, I want to give you what are the 1%ers of the world doing?
Exactly.
How are they investing? What are they doing? How did they get there, or what are they doing with their wealth? If I can never get there, that's some of us, right? But what are they doing with the wealth they have? I can do something with the little bit I have if it's a little bit. How can I piece it together like they did?
Exactly.
Right? Everyone wants to know how's Warren Buffett invest, right?
He started
somewhere.
Exactly.
So I want to emulate. I want to pick his brain, or the Elon Musk of the world, the very wealthy people. What are you doing? And my point to you today is that there are solutions that no matter where you're at, that can really help you. As we're talking about life insurance, this being Awareness Month, I think there are generational situations for a lot of people that don't think that they have the opportunity to invest in stuff like this. I keep saying invest because I think it's an investment. A lot of people don't. I think it is. I think you're investing either in yourself now, or you're investing in your future, you're investing in your family, or you're investing in your community. All of it to me is an investment. I think it's huge.
So once you understand what life insurance is, you see that there is a need for it at some level, and you have identified how much. Now you're looking at, okay, well, what are the different types of life insurance?
Sure.
So what's on the screen now are the different major types. There's term insurance, which is temporary. It doesn't last your entire life.
Sure.
It usually lasts for a period of time. And then there's permanent insurance, and there's different types of permanent insurance. So why don't you guide us through the features of a term policy? How would you describe that to a client?
Sure.
And then we'll get into the permanent policies second.
My opinion on term insurance is more, is definitely what can I get for the minimum amount of investment? How much can I get for that minimum investment? We've gone through a needs analysis. We talked about all your needs. I can get you this, and it's strictly, to me, is more death benefit, right? When you're talking about term life, now they can be converted, and there's a lot of stuff in them. There's a lot of information about the conversions and things you can do down the road. But you're basically saying, for this period of time, I'm going to make sure if something happens to me, that within this period of time, my loved ones or my beneficiaries or whatever it may be will get this specific sum. So, that can be tied to a goal as well. So I have clients that sometimes piece multiple different types of term policies based off of their goal. I've heard you talk about before, even like a mortgage situation. Hey, we want to have this home paid off in 15 years or 20 years or 30 years, whatever it may be. You can piece a term with that and say, hey, in this time, if I were to, demise, my income is gone. Can my wife, can my kids, can my loved ones be able to still handle this? A lot of times that answer is no, especially based off of statistics we just talked about. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we'll piece a goal within that, and that's more of how I use it. Or I guess sometimes people just say, hey, I want a couple $1 million in life insurance, or I want a couple 100,000, or I want 100,000, whatever it may be. And they already have a goal in mind, and so we'll talk about it. So tell me, where's that number come from? Why? Do you need more, or is that too much? Mm-hmm. But to me, that's the purpose of a term policy, specifically to a specific goal. I like to use it that way instead of just throwing a blanket number out there. You need this much. You got to have this much. And just like you said, going off of needs analysis, looking at 10 times your income, I put all that together and start to kind of come up with a conclusion for that.
Yeah. So the features of a term, again, are on the screen. But what I'm hearing then is that a term policy is for a specific period of time. It could be 1 year, 5 year, 10, 15, 20, even 30 years,
sure.
Right? And it's usually the investment in premium is usually lower for the amount of benefit that you can get.
Sure.
So it's more affordable for some people who are in a time crunch.
Let's quickly talk about, are we going to do this later, myths of why people don't like term or?
Yeah.
You want to do that now?
No, I'm going to summarize this first.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we're going to talk about that. So some of the other features of it, just so that we have a bottom line feature, is that it's a temporary policy. It typically does not last your entire life if you live beyond the term. So if your term is over, then the life insurance is gone. If you want to renew it, it's going to cost more.
Right.
Some of the other features is that one of the reasons why it probably costs less is because it's a very low payout.
Right.
Because usually people, and this is a good thing, people usually don't pass away within the term of their policy.
Right.
It's like a 1% payout usually. So that's why it's not going to cost as much, because it's not a high likelihood that people will die in that short period of time. But it is important to have, because you don't know when you're not going to wake up. And if you don't have enough money to pay for your need of benefit with a permanent policy, then a term might be a good temporary solution.
Sure.
But it's a temporary solution. It's not a permanent solution.
Right.
So what are some of the myths about term policies?
I mean, you kind of hit them on the head, but I think a lot of people think, all right, I'm going to pay all this money.
Good, right?
I'm good. I'll do that later. Or I'm going to pay all this money into something that I may never even get the benefit of, or my beneficiaries will never even get the benefit from it, because I'm going to live a long life. We all think that, right? We all want to think that. We all want to live as long as possible. Insurance, all insurance to me is oops, right? Oops, I should have had this. And I think, when you talked about the, I know you've done some of that before, but when you talk about the application process and all the stuff that goes into insurance, especially term, it's easier to get and more beneficial for you to get it when you're younger, right? As you get older, not even just more health problems come up, but life insurance companies are very intelligent. And now in the age of 2022, the algorithms out there are not in your favor. As you get older, even if you're 100% healthy, your premiums will be higher, right? Because the risk to them is greater now that you're 35 or 45 or 55 than it was when you were 20. So usually when I have younger, just like you talked about your son and your kids, I'm usually talking to them, hey man, this is something, I know it, you just got to do it. Just listen to me, you have to do it. And it doesn't resonate because it's not, especially now you got, all the Robinhoods and nothing against all these other companies of investing, but those look very attractive, and the cryptocurrencies and all that stuff looks very attractive right now. I can make a lot of money. But I think the power of what you can do within a term policy is something that gets overlooked. So that's one myth. I think people don't understand the cost, and I know we're kind of getting into that now. But especially in a younger age and healthy, I mean, we're talking about 1 to 2 cups of coffee and a month, and you've got a good amount of coverage that probably protects you good enough, especially right now as you're growing you're starting your career out or trying to grow your family and doing things of that nature. It's not very expensive at all.
Yeah, and so again, we can talk forever on this term policy.
Right.
So the features are below, some of the more, you can read more about the features in the description of the video. One of the things to take away from this is this. I liken term policy to an auto insurance, right? Like you pay car insurance and you hope that you don't get into an accident.
Right.
So you pay a term policy for life insurance. You hope you don't pass away, right? So being mad because you got passed away, it's like, it's kind of, I don't get that. But you want to protect yourself in the event that you have an oops.
Right.
That if you pass away earlier than you would like, than you expected to, your family's not going to be financially devastated.
Absolutely.
And so that's term policy. Now, when you get into permanent policies, it's a little bit more complicated.
Absolutely.
So how do you explain permanent policies in the different types?
Again, permanent policies to me are definitely, we're talking about an investment. We're talking about investing into not only your future in case of a demise, but a lot of times that we talked about before, we can talk about using permanent life insurance to be an investment tool for you while you're still alive. And I don't think that information is trickling down from here to here, if we're talking about from the the upper class when it comes to financial literacy and all of the information out there about it. So to answer your question, when I'm talking with an individual, I'm really, again, needs analysis. I'm talking about their needs and their specific goals and what they're trying to accomplish. And a lot of times it makes sense to have a greater investment than what it would be on a term policy and a perm policy. Perm, again, means permanent insurance. But there's a lot of different ones out there, and I'm pretty sure you got them up. But the point I want to make is not necessarily going through everyone and giving a definition. There's a lot of information out there. But I want to get the point across that there are so many solutions out there for people while you're still alive, using life insurance as an investment tool for you, as an investment tool or investment solution, and it not just being about a death benefit. So everything we talked about before is a death benefit. If I die, this is what they get. Permanent insurance has some solutions that are built into them that can help you while you're still alive. Whether that be for tax-free income, whether that be for tax-free withdrawals, whether that be for tax-free loans that you can do against them. So just giving examples, but some of my clients have even used some of their permanent life insurance to borrow money from it to use as a down payment on a house, or you borrow from it to fund a business, there's a lot of different things that you can do within that. So I definitely try to get those points across to my clients when I'm uncovering those needs. It could be for retirement goals. It's a lot of different things you can do with permanent insurance that I think is really cool.
So this is where I would say it's very important for you to work with a professional to understand, because the way I look at permanent insurance versus term is permanent insurance means that you want to make sure that you have a death benefit no matter how long you live. Right? So it's permanent. Because of that, it's going to cost more.
Sure.
There's usually a feature called a cash value within it.
Yep.
That cash value can be used to either help pay for the cost of the premium later on.
Absolutely.
So that it's not coming out of your pocket when you're retired, or you can use some of that to draw out to take care of some other expenses during retirement.
Sure.
So it gets kind of complicated.
Right.
So I look at maybe two major types. There's whole, and then there's some type of universal, which would be based on variable or some kind of index.
Sure.
But the whole policy was like the old school way. You want to pay it out over 20 years until you're 65 or for the rest of your life. And as long as you make your payments, you're good. Right? But you miss your payments, it might lapse.
Right.
When you look at the universal policies, that's where it becomes a little bit more complicated.
Yep.
You have more flexibility, and that's where it's critically important that you look at these policies every year as a financial professional to make sure that your goal of why you got the policy is still intact, because there's a lot of variables. And like you said, we can get into a more detailed conversation, but it's important to have that with a financial professional.
Right. And to your point, the difference between term and perm, I think people start to not compare them, they contrast them. Oh, this one's better than the other.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any investment solution out there that's necessarily better than the other. I think there are some that fit your needs that don't fit this person's needs, or sometimes a combination of the two, or a combination of incorporating, you know everything I do, incorporating that as a holistic view as a part of your entire financial picture. So even if I'm not, before early in my career, I didn't do life insurance wasn't a part of my practice, even though I was licensed for it. I would get on the phone and talk with a life insurance or an insurance rep with a client and making sure we had a holistic view of their entire portfolio or an entire financial picture. But another point with permanent insurance that I didn't even touch on that you kind of did, the point of permanent insurance is the term is I only got it for a specific period of time. Permanent means I have this for the rest of my life to cover me. Now, one has more cost than the other because you're insuring an entire life instead of a specific period of time, right? But the cool thing that you're talking about with whole life and universal life, they've gotten really unique over the last probably couple decades of how they've changed to be able, for our benefit, to really give us other benefits and solutions inside of a portfolio that can be really huge.
Yeah. And so again, this is the way I look at it. We're talking about life insurance. So at the end of the day, regardless of the benefits and how you can use them, the number one benefit is life insurance. So if you don't wake up, your family or your charity or whoever you want to give money to, your wealth can be transferred.
Right.
And what's missing is that there's groups of people, there's a lot of groups of people that are not having enough because they're not having these conversations.
Right.
They're not really being goal oriented when it comes to using these financial products, whether it's life insurance, whether it's your 401k at work, whether it's your Roth or the traditional IRAs, just putting money in the right buckets so that when you have a need, you've got the money in the right buckets to pull from.
Sure.
Whether it's your retirement accounts, whether it's your cash reserve for emergencies, whether it's your life insurance.
Yeah.
Right?
And like you said, one's not better than the other, right? I don't push this and say, this is a solution, you got to have this over this.
If someone's doing that, you got to
it's looking at a holistic view, this is what I have in place, this is what I don't, here's how some other solutions can help with your full financial picture.
And the cost, so what you're looking at now is just a general example of the cost between a term policy and a permanent policy, but there's a lot of variables in there. You got to sit down with a financial professional. But when it comes to the cost of these policies, Aaron talked about that initially. It's going to be based upon age. It's going to be based upon your health. It's also based upon your gender, male versus female, your occupation, what you do for fun.
Yep. Your life choices, yeah.
Exactly.
What you eat, what you put in your body starts to come into factors as well.
So all of those things are factors that go into the cost of life insurance. And so if someone, as a result of listening to our program now, want to go seek out life insurance, where do they go?
I definitely think seeking out a professional in your area, whether that be an insurance rep or whether it be a holistic advisor like myself trying to give you a holistic view, your local bankers, any of that stuff can start to point you in the right directions. Listening to podcasts like this, I think, is a good avenue. And then obviously you can reach out to myself. I would love to help anybody I can, and even if it's pointing them in the right direction, I think it's huge. But I think the point you're making is, I think people need to seek out that information, and I think there's a lot that's available. And I think a lot of times, again, I want to get with a lot of misconceptions and myths more than I wanted to do just giving definitions of what certain things mean. You can Google that, you can find out all that information, right? But I think people think either I don't have enough money, I don't want to be embarrassed about don't have some of this stuff in place yet, or it's going to cost me too much. I'm already struggling to get food on the table. I'm struggling to get.
I'm overweight. I'm in bad health.
Yeah, I'm in bad health already. They're gonna make me do a physical. I hate doing physicals. Yeah. All of those things are. You gotta take my blood. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. It's a lot of work, man. It's just a lot of paperwork. It's just too much. I'd rather just not even do that. I think again, that's why if you're sitting down with, try to find someone. If you're interviewing an advisor, an insurance rep, whoever it may be, to help you with this stuff. My commission to people is make sure people are really going through what your specific needs are. I think that's huge, because then you get to hear, or a good advisor is just reiterating back to you what you said, right? I spend 90% of my time listening to my clients than I do talking. I want to hear what you already got going on. I want to hear what's your passion. People will tell you your passion without telling you this is my passion, right? You've heard me. Most of my passion, everyone knows, is my daughter. I've said it 10 times a day, right? So if you were talking to me, you would say, hey, man, for your daughter, we need to make sure you already got me. You already got me listening now because you brought up something that is important to me. So I think if you're going, you need to go find a professional that is listening to you and trying to listen to what your specific needs are, and really try to give you solutions based off of that. And life insurance is just one of the solutions that can definitely help a lot of families, a lot of individuals.
And you mentioned, like, you can go to your bank. That's the first spot. Most bankers, they might be licensed, but they may not sell life insurance.
Sure.
So one place you can go is if you have a house
Yep.
and you have a homeowner's insurance.
Yep.
You can go to whoever is carrying your homeowner's
Yep.
insurance or your car insurance.
Yep.
Go there and talk about life insurance.
Yep.
If people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
I know you got some of my information on the screen, but the easiest way is my website. It has all my information that you can get there, and there's a lot of information that's downloadable, a lot of blogs and different articles we try to put up as well. My website is www.eclpwm.com. Again, that's www.eclpwm.com. And you can get all of my contact information from there, and I'd love to help anybody I can.
Cool. Well, man, like I said, we can talk all day about this. One of the other things I want to do is we talked about, every program that we do in the Empower Series giving hope, inspiration, education, and connection to resources.
Sure.
So the hope is, no matter where you are, we all want our families to do better than to elevate.
Absolutely.
And so the hope is, with life insurance, that can definitely be a tool that says, if I wasn't able to save enough money to pass out, to give millions of dollars to my children, I can get life insurance and have that as a safety net.
Sure.
To where when I pass away, that wealth can be transferred.
Absolutely.
That's number one. So I want to make sure that people have hope that by talking to a professional, they can really provide a safety net to ensure that their families are taken care of at that point when they don't wake up.
Right.
I want to inspire people to take action.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give some suggestions of actions that can be taken, but hopefully what we've talked about inspire people to go talk to a professional.
Yep.
Or go do some research,
Yeah.
right? Go to YouTube University or Google or whatever.
Right.
But talk to a professional is the one thing that we really want them to do.
Right.
We have educated them on this program and connecting people to resources like you, or resources in their neighborhood.
Sure.
It's available. So
Yeah.
I believe we've done all four of those things, but here's what I would like to say. There's 4 steps. If people are thinking, what do I do now? The first step is have a conversation with your family.
Absolutely.
And it could be with your circle of friends. It could be with your neighbors,
Yeah.
right? Whoever you feel, but have that conversation about, what do you want to have?
Yeah.
What are your goals? And then secondly is to decide, who do you want to benefit?
Yeah.
Do you want to benefit a charity? Do you want to
Yeah.
benefit your church, your children,
Yeah.
your pets, right?
Yeah. Real quick on churches. It's huge because a lot of communities love their churches, right? And your church, if you think about it, your church is used to you being there and making a donation every week or every month or however often you get paid. They're used to that check coming in. You're no longer here. They just lost it. And a lot of times, especially what we're seeing now, we didn't even get, it's a whole other conversation, but if we look at statistics of baby boomers that are passing away and passing over wealth to their kids, the kids aren't, the next generation coming up isn't as, I don't want to say connected, but they're not as hands-on from what we're seeing with statistics when it comes to churches, right? Mm-hmm. So churches, I think, are someone who really needs to get on board with some of these conversations with their congregation or with, as you're talking about talking with your family. I think you need to maybe talk with your church too. Some people love their church. They're all in on their church and they want to make sure their church thrives because their church really does a good job of helping good communities. One of the ways to make sure your church thrives and continues on without your donation coming in can be some form of life insurance as well. So I'm just trying to give all different kind of tidbits, little nuggets of different ways because there's a lot of myths, a lot of misconceptions of what this stuff is. And there can be a lot of good things that come out of Life Insurance Awareness Month and giving out some of that information.
And in addition to churches, it could be schools.
Right, yeah.
It could be creating a scholarship fund.
Absolutely.
So a lot of different things,
yep,
right?
Yep.
And so the first step is have a conversation with your family, your friends, your neighborhood. Number 2 would be to choose who you want to benefit.
Yep.
And then third would be to actually do the research to determine what your options are.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's very critical to talk to an agent.
Absolutely.
Or talk to an advisor. And then nothing but to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
4 steps, very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple. So if someone is now watching this program at the very, very end, they fast forward to the end.
Yeah. Don't do that.
How would you, I know, I think you should watch it all. Watch it again, share it with other people. But I want you to kind of summarize in essence, what we've talked about in a couple of sentences. You know, how would you summarize what we've talked about to leave people encouraged to watch this again?
I think that we have really tried to summarize that legacy transfer is important. I think we've tried to summarize that being able to be able to look at your overall financial picture is huge, and really seeking out information, I think, is something that connects all people, right? I think that we've tried to summarize the fact of different communities really realizing how the power of some of the things that we've talked about can really transfer not only an individual family, but can really change an entire community of people. And I think if you really start to look into that, and really we go from 4 out of 10 and we can get 10 out of 10 in a community that really dive into this and really figure out, hey, how can we protect, or even you think about a neighborhood. If I want to make sure my 10 neighbors, I'm just using 10 as an example, but I want to make sure this house stays good for my own benefit, right? I want my neighborhood to continue to thrive and do well. This is something you can even talk about in your own individual community of your neighbors. Hey, what are you doing in case of this, that, and the other? So point I want to get across is that, and really that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of tools out there to really help. And I think that a lot of people just have a lot of myths and misconceptions about a lot of this information. So I definitely say seek out information and try to figure out how it pertains to you specifically. And like you said, do it. Just do it. I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, the most appreciative thing that we can do is to act on our ideas. So first off, I want to just thank you, man, for spending a portion of your life here with us in the Empower series and sharing your wisdom and your encouragement to go out there and get information and seek information work with a financial professional. So thank you, right?
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for spending the time to watch this program. The Empower series is about all of us, right? We are all a resource for other people. We influence other people, we inspire other people, we give other people hope by people just observing us. So I want to thank you. I want to also thank Comerica Bank for the long-term relationship they've had with the Empower series, but more importantly, with all of the community partners in the communities that they serve. Thank AE Media Group for making us look good on social media. But more importantly, thank you again for spending your most precious resource with us here with the Empower series. And again, don't sit on this. Take action. Protect your families, protect your friends, have the conversations, share this video, share the Empower series with them, right? Because the only way people are going to find out about the Empower series is if you share it. So with all that being said, I want to leave you with my common phrase, until we meet again, I want you to be empowered and inspired to thrive. So thank you. Thank you for watching our Empower Series YouTube video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little button to be notified the next time we upload our video. Until then, stay connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media flavor is. Inspire the world to thrive. See you soon.